Season 3, No More Nice. This episode is entitled Healing from the Discomfort of Stillness and Quiet After Getting So Very Comfortable in Chaotic, Toxic Dysfunction. What happens when the chaos that we've been used to finally starts to quiet down? And peace still feels a little uncomfortable because some healing journeys and some healing seasons are not immediately peaceful. Sometimes they could feel like quiet, restlessness, emotionally exposure, loneliness, boring, isolation, agitated, or just an area or a time or a feeling that just really feels unfamiliar, especially when our nervous system becomes conditioned to emotional noise, clutter, unpredictability, hypervigilance, group dynamics, relational confusion, or constant overstimulation. Today, we're talking about withdrawal from dysfunction, the discomfort of silence after we've been so used to chaos and toxic environments, and what our nervous system does when it's recalibrating, what emotional detox looks like and feels like, and healthy PPT, people, places, and things, gentleness during healing, and how to rebuild and repair our lives and restore our lives without creating more harm in the process. Hey y'all, I'm Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised by an incredible single mom who is my biggest fan, my BFF, my bestie, my best friend for real. I am a celebrity certified personal trainer, fitness and wellness expert, and sports and entertainment media host. I was born in Fort Worth, raised in Dallas, Texas, and built in Los Angeles. I trained at Juilliard in New York City with the School of American Ballet, becoming the world's only 3-time ESPN Miss Fitness champion, appearing in more than 450 fitness DVDs and infomercials. And the first of those 450 DVDs was led by none other than the GOAT himself, celebrity trainer Gunnar Peterson, known for training the Kardashian family. As a certified celebrity personal trainer myself, I've had the pleasure of working with Robert Pattinson of Twilight and Batman, Chris Tucker of Rush Hour, and Amber Riley of Glee, Dancing with the Stars, and The Masked Singer champion. And as a sports and entertainment media host, I've had the joy of interviewing Richard Branson, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emma Stone, Viola Davis, Tiana Taylor, and Tyler Perry, just to name a few. I share my story not to toot my own horn, but to honor the millions of sacrifices my mom planted so that I could blossom into the woman I am still becoming. So if you're listening at home, I want you to pull up a real chair. If you're listening online, pull up a digital chair and grab yourself some hot herbal tea or kombucha. And welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8. Now C2, TC8, H.E.R circle, which stands for high performing, empowered women and some men who are ready to thrive. It is a 15-minute micro learning moment for macro living transformations. And I am really so overjoyed that you're here, that you listen. I appreciate it because this is where we explore life, lean into life, spirit, mind, and body through lived experiences and intentional growth. So join me daily for just 15 minutes, twice a day at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central, because this is your daily pause for a cause, for clarity, for wellness, for allowing grace in this space, because we certainly need it right now, and for intentional decision-making and transformations. Each episode, my offer to you is 3 keys and 1 reflection question. My prayer and my hope is that the 3 keys are something practical, something grounded, and something we could sit with and carry with us throughout our day. So let's take a breath together. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1, Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready. Let's get set. And let's grow. One thing that I am leaning into and realizing is that the absence of toxic chaos does not always feel peaceful immediately. Like it's not a magic wand. When our nervous system starts to recalibrate and it's been adapting to dysfunction. So sometimes that quiet can feel a little uncomfortable. And not because something is wrong with us or what we're desiring anymore, but because the body became emotionally conditioned to noise and unpredictability and overstimulation, confusion, group dynamics, emotional monitoring, and hypervigilance, and constantly preparing for disruption. And when those things suddenly become quieter, something else often surfaces. And that something else could be being restless, it could be irritable, it could be lashing out at people, it could be boredom, it could be emotional emptiness, sometimes loneliness and isolation and agitation and mental overthinking, and sometimes wanting a distraction or wanting stimulation or wanting the noise. Like, I think it's interesting. Like, I'm the kind of person when I go to sleep at night, I need complete silence because if I'm dreaming or if I have something else in my head, I don't want to be influenced before I go to sleep. But I always find it interesting how people they need white noise to sleep or they need something on in the background. But for me, when you're not used to noise, I need noise and I need no noise and I need complete darkness. And so sometimes when you want those things, it's because your body is so overstimulated all the time. And so this is a part many of us, we don't like to talk about it because sometimes healing feels uncomfortable because the body is basically withdrawing from emotional overstimulation. And some of us become so accustomed to emotional noise that silence initially feels suspicious. It feels very unfamiliar and really uncomfortable. And what once felt emotionally unhealthy can temporarily feel emotionally familiar simply because the nervous system adapted to it. And that realization requires tender, loving care and gentleness because some healing seasons require us to be kind to what we once were blind to. And we're not ashamed and we're not being harsh with ourselves. We're not condemning ourselves for what we normalize. We just need to be gentle because many of us adapted in order to survive environments, to survive people, and to survive things and seasons that we may be growing through because we never really truly felt safe in those environments. So we had to learn to adapt. And when the emotional noise finally quiets down, unresolved grief often becomes audible. Grief over what we tolerated, grief over what we normalized, grief over relationships we kept trying to save and resurrect, even though they were dead, grief over abandoning ourselves to preserve a connection that didn't need to be preserved, grief over how long we ignored what our body had already been trying to communicate. And sometimes our spirit knew way before our mind accepted it. For me, I describe that as the Holy Spirit. Someone else may call it intuition, discernment, inner knowing, or our still small voice. But many people understand what it feels like when something inside keeps whispering, this is not healthy. This does not feel safe. This is draining me. This is disrupting my peace. And that's happened to me before when I've had a conversation with a couple of people recently that I no longer talk to, that I realized that after talking to them that it felt heavy. And not because they were dumping, but just because they just felt like chaos. And it felt like it was a personal, something that I didn't want to be around. So I had to like get away from it. And so it is an interesting place to be when we realize that getting away from that environment and those people is something that we have to sit with, because sometimes we don't always realize that that thing that's been a constant, or that new thing or that new group, has been something that we tolerated. And so that healing may initially take healthier environments to feel unfamiliar initially. And so those healthy conversations may feel slower. Healthy people may feel quieter. Healthy boundaries may feel uncomfortable. Healthy reciprocity initially may not feel familiar. Healthy communication may feel less emotionally stimulating initially. And this is why discernment during our healing journey matters so much, because when people begin reevaluating old PPTs versus your new PPT, people, places, and things, there can sometimes be a temptation to quickly replace old environments simply to avoid sitting in silence and isolation. But healing often requires observation before attachment, not rushing intimacy, not overexposing ourselves too quickly, not trauma bonding through shared pain, not mistakenly familiarity for safety. And discernment grows slowly through consistency, honesty, reciprocity, accountability, emotional safety, peace, and observing how our spirit, mind, and body consistently responds around certain people and environments over time. Because healthy PPTs, people, places, and things, often feel steadier, quieter, clearer, calmer, and less emotionally performative. And that adjustment can initially feel very uncomfortable when dysfunction has become so normal. And this is where our gentleness with ourselves really matter, because healing is not recognizing unhealthy environments. That's not the only thing. Healing is learning how to sit with ourselves after the distraction of dysfunction is gone. And sometimes the greatest act of healing is allowing ourselves enough quiet to finally hear what our spirit, what our mind, and what our bodies have been trying to communicate all along. Which brings me to the 3 keys. Key number 1, the absence of chaos does not always feel peaceful immediately when the nervous system has adapted to dysfunction. And withdrawal from emotional overstimulation can sometimes look like restlessness, irritability, loneliness, agitation, overthinking, emotional impatience, or discomfort with silence. And not because our healing isn't needed or necessary, but because the body is recalibrating after prolonged emotional adaptation. Which brings me to key number 2. Some healing seasons require us to be gentle, more gentle with what we were once blind to, because many people adapted themselves in order to emotionally survive environments they never truly felt safe inside of. And healing is not only awareness, healing is learning how to respond to ourselves with honesty, compassion, discernment, and grace while processing what we normalize. And treating yourself like you would treat a toddler. Which brings me to key number 3, healthy PPTs. Healthy people, places, and things often feel steadier, calmer, quieter, more reciprocal, and less emotionally performative than dysfunctional environments. And discernment during healing requires slowing down long enough to observe consistency, reciprocity, peace and joy, accountability, emotional safety, and how our spirit, mind, and body consistently responds over time. Our one reflection question: where in our lives might I still be emotionally craving some kind of stimulation, some kind of noise, some kind of white noise, some kind of chaos, some kind of unhealthy familiarity, or old relational patterns simply because my nervous system adapted to that dysfunction? And what would it look like to respond to myself gently while healing through that transition and growing through that healing? So before you go, I want to say thank you. It has truly been an honor sharing this time with you and sitting with you. And I will continue to pray for grace in this space. And let's quickly revisit today's 3 keys. Key number 1: the absence of chaos does not always feel peaceful immediately when the nervous system has adapted to dysfunction. Key number 2: some healing seasons require us to be gentle with what we were once blind to. Key number 3: healthy PPTs, people, places, and things, often feel steadier, calmer, quieter, and more reciprocal than dysfunctional environments. And that reciprocity can simply mean listening without judgment. And your one reflection question, my one reflection question as well: where in our lives might we still be emotionally craving some kind of stimulation or noise or chaos or unhealthy familiarity or old relational patterns simply because our nervous system adapted to chaos and dysfunction? And what would it look like to respond to ourselves gently while healing through that transition? So if today's episode offered you clarity, grounding, or a pause for a cause you didn't know you needed, or if there's anything that I've shared today that pricked your heart or lit a spark, please subscribe and share this with someone you care about, and leave a comment so that this isn't a monologue, but a dialogue. And please leave a 5-star rating if you feel led, or send me a text because it helps this space to grow and reach others. Now let's close with one breath. We're going to inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. and again at 8 p.m. Central. This is Cut to the Chase at 8 with Madison Samone Chase, C2TC8, H.E.R Circle, high performing, empowered women and men ready to thrive. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready, set, grow, and go and be great. And blessing to you and yours. Until tomorrow.